Karen tells everyone she's the owner's daughter, but I'm the owner she's lying about. The morning sun filtered through the boutique's floor-to-ceiling windows as I adjusted my name badge one last time. Tam. It read in simple black letters on white plastic. No fancy title, no gold edges, nothing that would give away the fact that I owned every square inch of this place. I caught my reflection in the mirror display. Faded jeans, worn sneakers, and a plain black polo shirt that matched what my frontline staff wore. Perfect. After 6 years of building luxe and lace from a cramped corner space into the 3-story fashion destination it was today, I'd learned that the real magic happened when no one knew I was watching. "Morning, Tam," called out Jessica, my assistant manager, as she unlocked the register. Only she and my operations manager knew about my quarterly undercover rotations. To everyone else, I was just the new temporary hire filling in for someone on vacation. The store hummed with its usual morning energy. Merchandise was being steamed and arranged. The sound system played our carefully curated playlist, and the scent of the signature candles I'd personally selected filled the air. This was my baby, my dream realized. What started as a small loan and a wild idea had become something I never imagined possible. But lately, something had been eating at me. For weeks, I'd been hearing whispers from my staff about a woman who showed up like some kind of royalty, demanding special treatment and claiming connections to the owner's family. The reports were always vague, and by the time I heard about them, she was long gone. My team seemed hesitant to give me full details, which only made me more suspicious. "Has everything been running smoothly?" I asked Maya, one of my newer sales associates, as she organized the jewelry display. She glanced around nervously before answering. "Well, mostly. There was this one woman last week who was difficult. She kept saying she was connected to the owner somehow. Really rude to customers and staff." "What kind of difficult?" Maya's voice dropped to a whisper. "She made Jenny cry, called her incompetent, and said she'd have her fired. But then she left without buying anything after demanding some huge discount." My jaw tightened. Jenny was 18, fresh out of high school, and one of the sweetest kids I'd ever hired. The thought of someone making her cry in my store made my blood boil. "Did she give a name?" "No, but she acted like we should know who she was. Kept talking about family business and how her parents built this place." Maya shook her head. "It was weird because I thought you started this store yourself." I had to bite my tongue. Maya was right. I had started this store myself, with my own savings, my own vision, and my own sleepless nights. There was no family business, no parents who built anything. Just me, a dream, and the determination to make it work. As the morning progressed, I threw myself into the work. I helped customers find the perfect outfit for job interviews, restocked the dressing rooms, and even swept the floors. It felt good to be back on the ground level, to remember why I fell in love with retail in the first place. Every interaction mattered. Every customer who left happy was a victory. Around 10:30, I was folding sweaters when I overheard 2 regular customers talking near the accessories wall. "I love coming here," one said, "but last time there was this awful woman who kept interrupting everyone. She was so rude to the staff, acting like she owned the place." "Oh, her," the other replied. "I've seen her before. She's always going on about how her family owns the store. I almost didn't come back because of her." My heart sank. Customers were being driven away by someone pretending to be connected to me. This wasn't just about employee treatment anymore. This was about the reputation I'd spent years building. I made a mental note to check our security footage from the past few weeks. If this woman was as disruptive as everyone claimed, there had to be evidence. But first, I needed to see it for myself. The lunch rush was picking up when I noticed Jessica looking toward the entrance with a concerned expression. She caught my eye and gave me a subtle nod, our agreed-upon signal that something was about to happen. I positioned myself behind the main counter, pretending to organize receipt paper while keeping one eye on the door. My heart was racing with anticipation. After weeks of hearing about this mysterious woman, I was finally going to see her in action. The store felt different suddenly, like the calm before a storm. Customers continued browsing, staff continued working, but there was an undercurrent of tension that I could feel in my bones. Then I saw her reflection in the window display before she even walked through the door. Platinum blonde hair in a sharp bob, oversized sunglasses despite being indoors, and an iced coffee cup in her hand, which violated our clearly posted no drinks policy. She was here, and I was ready. The door chimed as she swept in like she was making a grand entrance at a movie premiere. Everything about her screamed entitlement, from the way she held her shoulders back to the dismissive glance she threw at our "no food or drinks" sign before taking another loud sip of her iced coffee. I watched from behind the counter as she surveyed the store, like a general inspecting troops. Her sunglasses stayed on despite the indoor lighting, and when she finally lowered them, her eyes were cold and calculating. She was probably in her mid-40s, dressed in what looked like expensive clothes, but something about her whole presentation felt off, like she was playing a role. "Excuse me," she snapped at Marcus, one of our part-time employees who was arranging accessories.
"These scarves are a mess."
"How do you expect customers to find anything when you can't even fold properly?" Marcus looked confused. The scarf display had been perfectly organized just minutes before. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Let me fix that for you." "Don't apologize," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Just do your job correctly the first time." I felt my jaw clench. Marcus was a college student, hardworking and polite. He didn't deserve to be spoken to like that by anyone, let alone a customer who had just walked in. But she was just getting started. "You there," she pointed at Jenny, who was helping a customer try on earrings. "I need these dresses steamed immediately." She thrust an armload of clothes at the poor girl without even waiting for a response. Jenny looked flustered. "Of course, ma'am. I just need to finish helping this customer first, and then I'll—" "No, now." The woman's voice got sharper. "The customer can wait. I have somewhere to be." The actual customer, a sweet elderly woman who came in monthly, looked shocked. "Oh, it's fine, dear. I'm in no hurry. See." The entitled woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Problem solved. Now, about that steaming. I watched Jenny's face turn red as she apologized to her customer and hurried toward the back room with the dresses. The elderly woman looked so uncomfortable that she started putting back the earrings she'd been considering. That's when I knew I had to intervene, but not yet. I needed to see how far this would go. The woman continued her tour of destruction, leaving a trail of intimidated staff and uncomfortable customers in her wake. She criticized our music choice, complained about the temperature, and rearranged merchandise displays while muttering about standards and proper presentation. Then she made her way to my register. "Finally," she said, placing several high-end items on the counter. "Someone who looks like they might actually know what they're doing." I looked down at the clothes, a silk blouse, designer jeans, and a leather jacket that together cost more than most people's monthly rent. "These are beautiful pieces," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Of course they are. I have excellent taste." She leaned across the counter, lowering her voice like she was sharing a secret. "Now, make sure you give me the family discount. 40% off everything." "I'm sorry, we don't offer family discounts," I said, scanning the first item. Her face changed instantly. The fake sweetness vanished, replaced by pure indignation. "Excuse me? Do you know who I am?" "I'm afraid I don't." She straightened up, pulling herself to full height. "I'm the owner's daughter. This is my family store." The words hit me like a physical blow. Owner's daughter? I didn't have children. I'd built this store as a single woman, and everyone who knew me knew that. "Oh," I said, fighting to keep my expression neutral. I wasn't aware the owner had a daughter. "Well, she does."
"Me."
She said it with such conviction that for a moment, I almost doubted myself. I had brunch with Mom just last week, and she told me to check on how things were running here. Between you and me, she's not impressed with the staff lately. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. And what did she say about the staff? That they're too soft, too accommodating to the wrong kind of people. She gestured dismissively at the store. "This is supposed to be an upscale boutique, not some discount chain where anyone can walk in." The elderly customer I had seen earlier was still within earshot, and I watched her face fall. She quietly put down a handbag she'd been considering and headed for the door. Dad always says, the woman continued, getting louder now, that you have to maintain standards. Keep out the riffraff. Only cater to people who can actually afford to shop here. I felt sick. This woman wasn't just lying about being my daughter. She was completely misrepresenting everything I stood for. I'd built this store to be welcoming to everyone, to make fashion accessible and enjoyable regardless of someone's background or budget. So about that discount, she said, tapping her manicured nails on the counter. 40% off and put it on the house account. Mom said I don't need to pay today. She was crossing every line possible, and I could see my staff watching nervously from around the store. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. Time to end this charade. So, what's your mom's name? I asked casually, continuing to scan her items while my heart hammered against my ribs. She didn't miss a beat.
Tanya.
Tanya Mitchell.
Wrong.
My name was Tamara Chun, and I'd never gone by Tanya in my life. But she said it with such confidence, such authority, that I could see some of my newer staff members starting to look uncertain. And she started this store when? I pressed, genuinely curious to see how deep this rabbit hole went. About 8 years ago, she said, waving her hand dismissively. Dad provided the initial investment, of course. Mom had the vision, but she needed his business connections to really make it work. 8 years. I'd opened 6 years ago, completely on my own with a small business loan and my life savings. No dad, no business connections, just me and a dream that I refused to let die. That's interesting, I said, scanning the leather jacket. And what's your name? Brittany. Brittany Mitchell. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through it, clearly bored with my questions. Look, can we speed this up? I have a massage appointment in 20 minutes. I watched her carefully. She was so comfortable in her lies, so convinced of her own performance. But there were cracks starting to show. She kept glancing around nervously, and I noticed she was sweating slightly despite the store's comfortable temperature. Brittany, I repeated. And you said you had brunch with your mom last week? That's right. At the country club. She looked up from her phone, irritation flashing in her eyes. Why all the questions? Just ring me up and give me the discount. I'm just curious about the owner. I've been working here for a while, and I've never met her. Well, she doesn't come in often. She's very busy with her other business ventures. Brittany's voice was getting sharper. She trusts me to keep an eye on things here. I glanced around the store and saw that we'd attracted an audience. Several customers had stopped browsing to listen, and my staff was pretending to work while clearly straining to hear every word. So, when she asked you to check on things, what specifically did she want you to look for? Brittany straightened up, seemingly energized by the question. Well, she's concerned about the layout. She thinks the entrance display is too cluttered, and she wants me to evaluate whether we're attracting the right clientele. My entrance display had won a local retail design award just 3 months ago. I'd spent weeks perfecting it, and it was one of my proudest achievements. And what did you think of the display? Honestly, it's amateur hour. Too busy, too common. She gestured toward the front of the store. Mom and I discussed completely redesigning it. Maybe bring in some higher-end pieces. Make it clear that this isn't a place for bargain hunters. I felt my face flush with anger, but I kept my voice level. What else did your mom say? She's not happy with some of the staff. Brittany's voice dropped to a stage whisper that was clearly meant to be overheard. Some of them are too friendly with the wrong kind of customers. She wants to maintain a certain image. I saw Jenny's face crumple from across the store. She was one of the most genuinely kind people I'd ever hired, and her warmth with customers was exactly what made this place special. Which staff members specifically? Well, that little girl over there, she pointed directly at Jenny, is far too accommodating. And the boy with the scarves clearly doesn't understand presentation standards. Marcus looked stricken. He was an art student who brought genuine creativity to our displays, and customers regularly complimented his work. Mom says we need to hire people who understand that exclusivity is part of the brand. Brittany continued, getting louder and more animated. People who can spot quality customers versus, well, people who are just wasting our time. A middle-aged woman shopping near the jewelry counter looked up sharply. She was wearing jeans and a simple sweater. Nothing flashy, but she was actually one of our best customers, someone who'd spent thousands here over the years. The thing is, Brittany was really warming up now. Mom built this place from nothing. She understands what it takes to maintain standards in retail. You can't just let anyone walk in and expect to be treated like royalty. From nothing, I repeated. Absolutely. She started with just a small loan and a dream. Dad always says he's proud of how she turned his investment into something really special. There was another contradiction. First, she said her dad provided the initial investment. Now she was saying it was a small loan. She was making it up as she went along, but she was doing it with such conviction that I could see doubt creeping into some of my staff's faces. So your mom, Tanya, she's quite accomplished? Very. She's actually thinking about opening a second location. Maybe somewhere more upscale, where she won't have to deal with. She paused, looking around the store. Certain elements. I followed her gaze and realized she was looking at our more diverse clientele, the college students, the young professionals, the families who'd made this store a part of their community. Brittany, I said quietly, I have to ask you something. What now? She was getting impatient, tapping her foot. If you're really the owner's daughter, why don't you know that her name isn't Tanya? The color drained from her face. For the first time since she'd walked in, she looked genuinely rattled. What do you mean? I said, reaching for my name tag, that the owner's name is Tamara, and she doesn't have a daughter. The store went completely silent. Brittany's face went through a rainbow of emotions, confusion, panic, then defensive anger. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course I know my own mother's name. Do you? I pulled off my name tag and set it on the counter. Because you've been calling her Tanya this whole time, and that's not her name. You're just a cashier, she stammered, but her voice had lost its earlier confidence. You don't know anything about the owner's family. Actually, I know quite a bit. I could feel every eye in the store on us. Customers had stopped pretending to shop, and my staff was frozen in place. Jessica? My assistant manager appeared beside me so quickly, I knew she'd been waiting for this moment. Yes? Could you please pull the incident reports from the last 2 months? The ones about the woman claiming to be connected to ownership. Jessica's smile was barely contained. Absolutely. Brittany's eyes darted between us, clearly sensing the shift in power dynamics. What incident reports? I don't know what you're talking about. The ones documenting your previous visits, I said calmly. This isn't your first time here, is it, Brittany? She tried to maintain her composure, but I could see sweat beading on her forehead. I come here regularly. It's my family store. Jessica, what do the reports say? Jessica cleared her throat and began reading from her tablet. October 15th. Woman claiming to be owner's daughter demanded 40% discount. Verbally abused staff member Jenny, called customer trashy for asking about sale prices. Left without purchasing when asked for ID. Brittany's face was turning red. Those reports are fake. Someone's trying to. October 22nd, Jessica continued. Same woman returned. Demanded entire section be re-merchandised to her specifications. Made cashier Marcus cry by calling him incompetent. Claimed store policies didn't apply to her. Security footage shows her leaving with unpaid merchandise. That's a lie. Brittany's voice cracked. November 3rd, November 12th, November 18th, and November 25th. Jessica looked up from her tablet. Same pattern every time. Claims family connection, demands discounts, abuses staff, disrupts other customers. I watched Brittany's face as the weight of documented evidence settled over her. She looked around the store desperately, as if searching for an escape route. 6 times, I said quietly. 6 times you've come into my store, terrorized my employees, and driven away my customers. All while claiming to be someone you're not. Your store? She scoffed, but her voice was shaky now. You're just a... I'm the owner. I let the words hang in the air. The real owner. Tamara Chun. And I've never seen you before in my life. The silence was deafening. I could hear the soft music playing over the sound system, the distant hum of traffic outside, even the buzz of the fluorescent lights. But no one in the store moved or spoke. Then Brittany laughed, a harsh, desperate sound. That's ridiculous. You're just some minimum wage worker trying to... Jessica, show her the security footage from her last visit. Jessica turned her tablet around, and we all watched as grainy but clear footage showed Brittany from 2 weeks ago, screaming at Jenny while other customers looked on in horror. The timestamp was clearly visible, and you could see her grab a scarf from the counter and walk out without paying. That's shoplifting, I said matter-of-factly. We've been documenting it each time, building a case. Brittany's composure finally cracked completely. You can't prove anything. I'll sue you for harassment. With what evidence? Using what lawyer? I stepped closer to the counter, my voice still calm but carrying an edge of steel. You've been impersonating a family member of mine who doesn't exist, stealing merchandise, and abusing my employees. I have 6 documented incidents, security footage, and about 15 witnesses just from today. The customers who had been watching started murmuring among themselves. I heard someone whisper, "She's been lying this whole time?" The real question, I continued, is why? Why create this elaborate fiction? Why target this specific store? Why hurt innocent people who are just trying to do their jobs? Brittany's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Finally, she managed to croak out, I don't have to explain anything to you. You're right. You don't. I picked up the phone behind the counter. You can explain it to the police instead. No. She lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. Don't call them. I'll pay for everything. I'll leave and never come back. I looked down at her hand on my wrist, then back at her face. The mask had completely fallen away now. Gone was the imperious woman who'd swept in like royalty. In her place was someone desperate, cornered, and probably dealing with issues far beyond what I could see. Let go of me, I said quietly. She released my wrist immediately, stepping back like she'd been burned. Now, I said, you're going to walk out of my store. You're never coming back. And if I see you anywhere near this place or any of my employees again, I will call the police. But Brittany wasn't done yet. As she backed toward the door, her face twisted with rage and humiliation, I could see she was about to make one final play. This wasn't over. You know what? Brittany's voice turned venomous as she reached the door. You people are all the same, aggressive, unprofessional, and clearly unfit to run a business like this. The racial undertone in her words hit me like a slap. I saw several customers' faces change, and I knew they'd caught it too. This was about more than just lying about being my daughter. This was about something much uglier. Excuse me? I said, stepping out from behind the counter. You heard me. She turned back toward the store, her voice rising to make sure everyone could hear. This is exactly what's wrong with retail today. People like you get a little bit of power and think you can treat real customers however you want. Real customers? I repeated. As opposed to what? As opposed to thieves and liars who come in here pretending to own the place. She gestured wildly around the store. I've been shopping here for months, and I've never seen service this poor. No wonder this place is always empty. That was demonstrably false. The store was busy right now, and we consistently had strong foot traffic. But I could see what she was doing. She was trying to flip the narrative, make herself the victim. Ma'am, said the middle-aged woman who'd been shopping near the jewelry counter, I've been coming here for 3 years. I've never seen you before today, and I've never seen anything but excellent service. Brittany whirled around to face her. Nobody asked you. And frankly, I can see why you'd defend this place. It's probably the only store that would let you shop here dressed like that. The woman looked down at her jeans and sweater, then back at Brittany with a mixture of hurt and confusion. I'm sorry, what's wrong with how I'm dressed? Nothing, I said firmly, walking toward Brittany. Absolutely nothing. You look lovely, and you're always welcome here. See? Brittany pointed at me dramatically. This is exactly what I'm talking about. No standards, no class, no understanding of what upscale retail should be. I heard someone behind me gasp and turned to see a young woman, maybe college age, with her phone raised, clearly recording. "Are you getting this?" she asked her friend. "Every word," her friend replied, also filming. Brittany noticed the phones, and her demeanor shifted again. "Put those away. You can't record me without permission." "Actually," said the first girl, "we're in a public business, and you're causing a scene. We can absolutely record this." "This is harassment." Brittany's voice cracked. "I'm being harassed by the staff and customers of this store." "No," I said calmly. "You're being held accountable for your behavior. There's a difference." "My behavior?" She laughed hysterically. "My behavior is trying to maintain some dignity in a store that's clearly gone downhill since the real owner stopped paying attention. I am the real owner." I pulled out my wallet and showed her my business license, my credit cards with the store's name, my insurance documentation. "Tamara Chen. This is my store. These are my employees, and you've been lying about being my daughter for months." The customers with phones moved closer, making sure they captured everything. I could see other people in the store had pulled out their phones too. "You're lying," Brittany screamed, but her voice was breaking. "You're all lying. This is a conspiracy." "Ma'am," Jessica stepped forward, "we have security footage of you stealing merchandise. We have documented reports of you abusing staff members. We have witnesses. What exactly are we lying about?" I. Brittany looked around frantically, realizing she was completely outnumbered and outmaneuvered. "You people are all in on this together." "What people?" I asked quietly. She stopped talking, but her meaning was clear to everyone in the store. "I think," said the elderly customer who'd been driven away earlier but had apparently returned, "that we've all heard enough. Young lady, you should be ashamed of yourself. Don't you dare lecture me." Brittany spun toward her. "You have no idea who you're talking to. I'm talking to someone who lies, steals, and treats good people badly," the elderly woman replied with surprising steel in her voice. "Someone who thinks their skin color or their bank account makes them better than everyone else." The truth hung in the air like a physical presence. Everyone could see what this was really about. "I'm calling the police," Brittany announced, pulling out her phone. "This is discrimination. This is harassment. This is you leaving," I said firmly.
Right now.
I'd already texted my security company 5 minutes earlier, and I could see their car pulling up outside. 2 uniformed officers got out and headed toward the door. "Ma'am," the first officer said as he entered, "we got a call about a disturbance." Brittany's face went white. "I know, I was just leaving." "Actually," I said, "I'm the one who called. This woman has been trespassing, shoplifting, and harassing my staff and customers." The officer looked at me, then at Brittany, then at the crowd of customers all holding phones. "I see. Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us." "This is insane," Brittany protested as the officers approached her. "I'm the victim here," but even as they escorted her out, I could see her looking back at the store with pure hatred in her eyes. She wasn't done with me, and I wasn't done with her. This was just the beginning. 3 hours later, the store was finally quiet. The last customer had left, the staff had finished their shifts, and I was alone with my thoughts and the weight of what had happened. I sat behind the counter where it all unfolded, still processing the whirlwind of emotions from the day. The videos were already spreading online. The college student who'd recorded everything had tagged me in a post that had gotten hundreds of shares in just a few hours. Local business owner exposes woman who's been impersonating her daughter for months was trending on several platforms. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive, with many people sharing their own stories of entitled customers and workplace harassment. But the viral attention wasn't what mattered to me. What mattered was the conversation I'd had with my team after Brittany was escorted out. "I'm so sorry you all had to deal with that," I told them as we gathered in the back room. "And I'm sorry I wasn't here to protect you from her earlier visits." Jenny had been the first to speak up, tears still fresh in her eyes. "I thought I was doing something wrong. She made me feel so small, like I didn't belong here." "You belong here more than she ever will," I'd assured her. "You bring kindness and authenticity to this job. Those are the qualities that make this place special." Marcus had been quiet during the whole ordeal, but afterward, he'd pulled me aside. I almost quit after her second visit, he admitted. She made me feel like everything I did was wrong, like I wasn't good enough to work in a place like this. That conversation haunted me now as I sat in the empty store. How many other small businesses were dealing with people like Brittany? How many employees were being driven away by customers who weaponized entitlement and prejudice? I opened my laptop and started typing. First, an email to all staff. Effective immediately, anyone claiming a personal connection to ownership, management, or corporate must provide written documentation before receiving any special treatment. No exceptions. Additionally, any customer who treats our team with disrespect will be asked to leave, regardless of their claimed status or spending power. But that was just the beginning. I continued typing. I'm also implementing a new mentorship program for all employees, especially our newer team members. We'll have monthly sessions covering customer service, conflict resolution, and most importantly, recognizing when someone is trying to manipulate or intimidate you. You have the right to work in an environment free from harassment, and I'm committed to making sure that happens. As I wrote, I thought about Jenny's shaking hands and Marcus's defeated expression. I thought about the elderly customer who'd been made to feel unwelcome in a space I designed to be inclusive. I thought about all the small moments of cruelty that had been happening while I wasn't watching. Never again. I pulled up our security system and began reviewing footage from the past 2 months. There she was, Brittany in all her toxic glory, terrorizing my staff visit after visit. But now I could see something else. How my team had handled it. They'd remained professional even when she didn't deserve it. They'd protected each other and tried to minimize her impact on other customers. They documented everything properly, building the case that had ultimately led to her downfall. I was proud of them, but I was also angry that they'd had to endure it at all. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. The officer called. They're pressing charges for theft and harassment. Apparently, she's done this at 3 other stores in the area. They've been looking for her for months. That explained a lot. This wasn't random, it was a pattern. Brittany had been moving from store to store, using the same routine to intimidate and steal. We'd just been unlucky enough to be on her list. But maybe we'd also been lucky enough to be the ones who finally stopped her. I looked around my store, at the displays I'd carefully curated, the team photos on the wall, the thank you notes from satisfied customers. This place represented everything I'd worked for, a space where fashion was accessible, where everyone was welcome, where respect was non-negotiable. Brittany had tried to turn it into something ugly, something exclusionary, something that reflected her own prejudices rather than my values. But she'd failed. If anything, the experience had made me more determined to protect what I'd built. I finished writing the new policies and started on one more email, this one to our customers, thanking them for their support and reaffirming our commitment to treating everyone with dignity and respect. As I locked up that night, I felt a strange sense of gratitude. Yes, today had been horrible. Yes, my team had been hurt. Yes, we'd all been forced to confront some ugly truths about entitlement and prejudice. But we'd also proven something important. Truth wins. Community matters. And when good people stand together, bullies don't get to win. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new customers, new opportunities to live up to the values I'd built this place on. But tonight, I was content knowing that my store, my rules, my values, my community had survived its biggest test yet. And we'd come out stronger.